Imagine that you are on a ferry in Elliott Bay. Most people don't realize how ideal this location is for a harbor. A harbor that is 125 nautical miles from the ocean and ports a call from ships traveling from Singapore to Stockholm. From the ferry, you see some very important commercial buildings. Terminal 91, the two large piers between Magnolia and Queen Anne Hills. Pier 86, the largest automated grain terminal on the west coast. And Alaska Square, adjacent to Pier 48, where thousands start or end their cruises to Alaska. After hearing about all this, you might think, who owns all this stuff? The answer is you, each and every one of you. You may own a part of the Port of Seattle, but you don't run it. The Port of Seattle organization runs it. One of the many wondrous parts of the Port of Seattle organization is their facilities. A very beneficial facility is the cargo terminals, which is very important towards our economy. Another important social chain is our cruise ship terminals, from where most people go to Alaska. The marinas of Seattle are a very important part of Seattle culture, being that Seattle fishes most of its seafood. Another very crucial part of the economy is the use of industrial properties on local businesses. You must be thinking, there must be someone who is running this giant circus, and there is. The organization is run by a 5-member elected commission, and there are also some executives that work closely with the commission. But it wasn't always this way. Let's take a travel back in time and see how the port had really started. In 1851, the schooner Exact reached the shores of Alki, dropping off the first white settlers in the region. Then, in the late 1850s, Henry Yesler, owner of Seattle's first sawmill, created Seattle's first pier, a wharf stretching 1,000 feet into the water. Later in the 1870s, small independent steamships would dock at Yesler's port and lead to the farms of Whidbey Island and the logging village of Port Townsend. These ships would later be called the Mosquito Fleet for the buzz of their engines and the sheer number of them. By the late 1870s, Seattle is building its first railroad, the Seattle and Walla Walla Railroad. In 1877, the Northern Pacific Railroad Company had said that the railroad could only go to Tacoma. Because the city required funding, the government gave waterfront property to the railroad companies. During this time, the Panama Canal was almost completed, and the Port of Seattle needed to get ready for the massive fleet of ships. But the railroad companies that owned most of the waterfront was not developing it. So the government of Seattle had said that they should own the waterfront for the massive fleet of ships that would be arriving in the month that followed. Seattle leaders feared that the city would fall behind rival western ports like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Portland, who were already investing in docks and wharves to attract new shipping when the Panama Canal is completed. After much deliberation, a 1911 legislation passed, the Port District Act, which was signed into law, thereby creating public port districts in Washington. Now that we're done with the main presentation, let's hear about some interesting facts about the port. Alaska Airlines is Seattle's largest airline customer out of all the airlines that dock at SeaTac International Airport. And the SeaTac parking garage is the largest in North America. The cruise district also creates 3,000 jobs every year. Our port is the world's 57th largest port, and our sisters is the Kobe Port of Japan and the Taichung Port of Taiwan. And most aircraft operations at SeaTac are cargo to international markets. The seaport handled a total of 361,951 20-foot containers as of March 2015, breaking the previous record held in November 2014. And SeaTac is the 19th busiest airport in the United States by cargo volume. And the port services to 17 international and domestic ocean carriers. And every time a home port ship docks, It brings $2.4 million into the revenue. Terminal 5's on-site storage facility can hold the capacity of 2 full trains, and the port provides over 4,000 jobs. And we own some of the world's largest dockside cranes at our seaport. And 2 million containers were handled in 2011 alone.